Next step is going to be working on this bad boy right here. This is my 95 Nissan Hardbody lowrider mini truck project, and I've gotten a bunch done on it. It's already airbagged. It's got all sorts of work done, full exhaust on it. The cab is body dropped. Most of the stuff underneath the chassis is all buttoned up, but right now I want to get started on this, body dropping the bed for it. So first things first, 95 Nissan Hardbody has a 2400 2.4 liter 4-cylinder. This is a great little engine, similar to what was in the 240 SX cars, but this one is kind of detuned a little bit. I think it's called a KA24 is the engine family that this is in. So it's a little 4-cylinder, 5-speed transmission, 2-wheel drive, and stock rear axle in it. It's kind of hard to start on this project right now and show you guys, but it's already got a ton of work done. I wish that I would have been able to document it when I was building it, but at the time I was doing dirt every day and I didn't have a YouTube channel, so I didn't really document it too well. I was just kind of building this thing for myself. So this thing is airbagged in the front already. It has the airbags done and strut rod eliminators built, so it has a bunch of work already finished. It has the body drop on the cab is already done. Well, it's started. The body drop on the cab is started. You can kind of see what's going on here. A body drop is basically when you cut the floor. Let me get my flashlight in there. You cut the floor out of the vehicle, you lower the body down, and then you weld the body back to the floor. You end up losing foot space up here, a little bit of space under the dash there, a bunch of sheet metal work, but the end result gets it to where the body is even with the frame rails rather than the frame rails hanging way down. So this truck is actually body dropped 3 inches. And I cut the pinch weld off the body, and this thing is super slammed, so we'll get into that later. But tonight the job at hand is not to finish these inner fender wells that I started months ago and haven't finished, but instead we're gonna start the body drop on this bed. Basically I've got to cut the bed floor all loose and then lower the body down. When it's all said and done, these I guess the top caps of the bed sides are going to be resting on the wheel wells there, so that'll lower the body down. It'll keep the bed floor kind of raised up and clean looking with stock looking inner fender wells, and hopefully it'll make it to where I'm tucking about to here on the back wheels, and I should, well, I've got this step notch in the frame here where I built a rear frame half. This stuff will probably still have to poke through the bed floor a little bit, and I'll have airbags sitting in there, but for the most part this will end up looking relatively stock, other than a little cutout square kind of there in the middle. So let's get busy. It's go time. It's already like Sunday evening. I got to be at work tomorrow, and I want to get it to where this thing is cut and dropped down and at least tacked in place tonight. Wait a second. Alright, we got to make something out of this weekend. I have been screwing around way too much, kind of lagging on getting started on this, so I guess we'll just go ahead and get going. I need to clean all that junk out of the bed, get it out of the way, and then kind of go through this and take off all these extra little pieces that aren't needed, like this little piece of plastic here and this little metal. That was really loud. That little metal piece. So we'll get into this body drop on this bed here in a second. I'm gonna start prepping. Alright, so first step on this body drop is basically to figure out how much I can raise the bed floor. And that's going to come from here. Basically, this is going to drop down and rest right on that. I'll end up welding this rib right to that rib there. And it looks like 5.5 inches is the magic number before creating even bigger problems. So 5.5 inch body drop when the cab is 3 inches leaves me with an extra 2.5 inches of space basically under the bed and in the wheel wells and stuff like that. So that's actually kind of good. The idea there is that possibly less of this will have to stick through the bed floor, and also if I'm going to be mounting air tanks and stuff in this area in the chassis, I can raise them up just a little bit higher. That way they don't try to drag on the ground. So that's step one. Step two is to figure out where I want to cut this along the sidewall so that my weld seam I want kind of hidden up underneath here, so that when you look at it from the side, you don't see a big weld seam right in the middle of your line of sight. You want to try and hide the weld seam up under the bed rail a little bit. So I'm going to figure out where to cut that. Then the next one is where to cut along here. The cleanest is closer to here in the flat section, but underneath in that flat section there's bracing and all kinds of stuff. So I think on this one I'm actually going to cut forward a little bit and cut into this ribbed area and raise it up there. That way I don't have so much like double wall bracing and stuff to cut through. So I'm just going to do a couple of measurements off the cab here. Let's see. Come on back. The frame is about, I guess with the bed gap to the end of the frame is about 65. So trying to figure out here where 65 would put me. Oh, that's like way up here. Alright, we got plenty of space. I left this frame section a little bit short, knowing that I would have to like build off the back of it for my bed mounts. And I think we've got more than enough room to cut this floor basically right here for a nice easy cut, and then the like sheet metal work will be a little difficult to make it match, but I think it'll look cool when it's done. So alright, since I'm going to be cutting a bunch of the structure out of this bed, I want to at least weld a bar in right here from like the top of the bedside to the other top of the bedside. That way after I cut it and like do all this welding, the tank still fits in there square. You don't want to cut all this and weld it together and have like one bedside doing this. So I'm going to cut this piece of exhaust tubing. I'm going to fit it in right about here, tack it in place, and that should keep this back portion pretty square once I start cutting the bed floor itself. I really need to go buy some new batteries for these tools. Stuff is getting pretty old. Close? Close. Sand it up and weld it in. Alright, I got my first cuts made. I actually came up here in the inner fender well and cut this brace so that that is loose. And that was cut number one. I got my little tube welded in here to keep it square, and now I'm gonna figure out this line where I want to cut the back. And I think I'm just going to do it super simple. I got this piece of flat bar resting in here. It fits pretty good. And I'm just going to go through, mark all these high spots. And then I'll go back and I'll connect the dots with my cutoff wheel. Dropped you. Anyways, I cut that. I'm gonna keep going all the way across. Alright, I think I'm done for the night. It is about 8:30 on Sunday night. I only got these sides cut, the back cut, that cut, the tube put in, and the sides loosened up today. I really wanted to get this thing cut all the way around and the bed dropped, but I feel like my neighbors are probably tired of hearing my Sawzall and grinder running right now, so. Where are my earplugs at? Alright, it is Monday night, and dang, it was a long day at the day job, but I am back on this here Nissan bed. Alright, it is, I think it's about 5:40 right now. I just got done watching Puddin' Fab's new episode on his rear suspension on that international truck, and I'm like ready to cut this thing. I'm so tired of not having cool stuff to drive, and it's almost spring, so y'all better watch out because it's go time. Anywho, I got the back portions of this thing cut last night, and I got to about here, and this thing right here was making so much noise. I was like, I gotta go inside before my neighbors call the cops. So right now I got a couple hours. I'm gonna try and get this bed floor cut, and if all goes well, we're gonna have this bed drop down tonight. I gotta get busy though, so not gonna be a whole lot of cool camera work. I'm gonna go try and find my thing that'll hold the camera. This is my tripod. It's also a light for camping. Where's the light? Oh, where's the button? Yeah, check this thing out. It's dead. Oh, no, it's not. Alright. This is how high-tech we are. I have graduated from my cell phone mount, which is on there, to a GoPro, but now I really don't have a way to hold the GoPro, so I have to just sort of prop it on there and hope for the best. So, alright, I'm going to cut this bed floor. We're going to make awesome stuff happen. I gotta have something that'll work here. Let's see. It's hard to see what I'm doing, but oh, I almost fell. I'm gonna try and get these C-clamps to hold my GoPro onto this stick light. It's actually a Light Ranger from Devos Outdoors, and it's awesome, but I don't use it for what they intend it for. I use it for holding my camera. Look at that. Instant GoPro. What? Sorry, tripod holder thing. Alright, I'm going in. Oh. So, the front and the rear are where I'm going to get like my legit measurements. So the sides, they can be close enough. So I'm going to go ahead and make a cut along the bottom here with my grinder with the cutoff wheel on it. And then I'll go back after I make that first cut. I'm going to come down here. I'm going to cut this section out altogether. That way it's out of the way. And then I'll probably go eat dinner. I cut too deep because the bed skin is like really close. When I was 18 and I was doing this, it was a little bit easier. The grinding wheel is done. Next, we're going to get rid of this section here, because if we don't, it's way harder to cut that out from underneath. That part's always sketchy because it's like way easy to let the sawzall blade go, put a bunch of little dents in your bedside. Alright. I gotta check my phone and see if my wife called to tell me it's time for dinner. Alright. Stopping was a good move. It was ravioli night. Raviolis are amazing. God, I can't see anything in those. Alright. So here's the deal. I am going to basically take where I'm going to lower this 5.5 inches. I'm going to take this, I'm going to cut 5 inches down. That way it has like a 1/2 inch overlap when it's fitted together. That'll give it to where I can like get a nice strong weld on it. Alright. The main goal here is just to cut, get things done. Talking about it doesn't get it done. So I should be able to cut across here. Take this section out altogether. Close to 7 o'clock. And I gotta get this bed cut. I was really trying to like not be making noise after 8 tonight because this thing is just kind of like super loud. It's like a steel drum, it seems like I'm working on here. Come on. Both sides are cut. Now I just got to figure out where I want to cut along this front edge so that I can lower this thing down and weld it up and have it look cool. I think I'm going to just cut, sorry, let me grab the camera. Come on out of there. I think what I'm going to do is basically dig out this seam sealer. And I'll go ahead and cut right along that line, and then I'll cut up 5.5, and we'll see where it all ends up. I might be able to cut it and then like overlap it so that it actually welds on the other side over here. So, alright, I'm gonna cut that and then we'll figure it out. I got this marked and cut from the inside. The bottom's actually loose, so now I just got to connect all these little cuts, and I'll take that section of metal out. When I do that, the bed's going to want to drop, so I'll probably cut, I don't know. Let's see what happens. Alright, I'm down to the last few cuts. I basically have to cut here and down, and once that is free, it'll allow the body to drop. But what's going to happen is if I cut that, then this bedside is going to be like flopping around and weird. So what I'm going to do is weld a little piece of flat bar on here that'll go from one side to the other and hold hopefully the bottom parts of that fender in place. Look at that! The bed is cut loose. The floor is loose. It's ready to go up. I am going to do a couple other little things here just to make sure it's all ready to go, and then we'll see how it looks. Alright, I guess we're just going to see together how this is all going to work. I'm going to set this over here on my welder. And I'll come back for you once I get this thing lowered down, see what happens. Probably should put some gloves on. Everything in here is sharp. I'm really wanting just to lower it down and kind of see how it's going to fit. I wouldn't doubt that I'll have to prop it back up. And see what's going on. Oh, I still have things to cut back here. Hold up. Not ready yet. I forgot I still have these couple of little body mounts to cut. Now let's see if we can get this to lower down. Oh, look at that. It's doing things. It just went and dropped and landed on the table. Crap. I guess I need to scoot it. Shoot. What's going on here? Let's lower this one down. Alright. There's that. That is getting there. So how am I gonna get this thing off the table over here? This can come out. the problem I'm having is this cross member's hitting the table. So I basically just need to scoot the bed towards me a 1/2 inch. Alright, I am battling my new GoPro and the audio on it a little bit. I want to apologize for that, but nothing I can do about it today. So I am going to just continue on with this body drop tutorial thing that we got going on. I came in a couple hours ago and I've been messing around with this. I think where we left off, I had got the bed dropped down, but it wasn't sitting flush over there like that, and I had a couple other little things that I wanted to do. So I've got some sheet metal on the floor there, pieces that I cut out from up above the wheel well arches. That way this has been able to sit down all the way. And then this was kind of cool. I came through here and I had some sheet metal that was overlapping that was from this front panel, and it was originally spot welded to here, and there was a bunch of rust between the two layers. So I went through with my grinder and I cut off these spot welds and kind of just dig them out with the cutoff wheel here. And once you dig it out of there a little bit, you can wiggle it back and forth and get that spot weld off. So got all that out of there, cleaned up some rust because it had started to rust and bubble between there. So it's looking good. I've got it almost all the way down to where I want it. I just have a couple little things I need to notch so that I can get this down another 1/4 inch or so. You can see here I need to drop it just a little bit, and this is my contact point. So I need to trim those little corners out, and this thing should sit down where it's going to live. What do we got here? We'll do a 16 gauge. Alright, I have this thing where I want it as far as I can tell. Yeah, I got that to where it's like right there up against it. I want to make sure that I'm not forcing it so much that I create like an arc here. So the trick is going to be like making it to where it's like just barely touching it. Like this side's pretty good. Anywho, I'm going to do a couple little measurements, throw a couple tack welds here and there, and once I get that front portion all square and tacked in, then I can come back here and figure out a good spot to tack the back so that it's kind of dialed. I think basically I'll be in this area here with something, and then tomorrow night hopefully we can come in and start figuring out the sheet metal piece that's going to fill that gap and how to make that look cool. So it's all coming together. I'm pretty stoked on this right now. So I'm going to tack that up and then close it up for the night. It's Friday morning. It is cold. Winter came back with a vengeance, but I got the heater cranked. I got some new audio equipment. Hopefully we can make something happen today. And check this out. It's time to button this bed up. I came in here the other night and got it all tacked up. So today it's time to finish weld this thing. Alright, first order of business is to get rid of this corrugated piece of sheet metal. This was left over from when I cut the bed floor up here. And in order to make a new piece that will fill this void in, if I have this just being smoothed down on the bottom, it will make a simpler filler panel to make. So I'm going through with the die grinder. I'm cutting out the spot weld. Basically just grind it until you get through that top portion of the spot weld. Wiggle it back and forth with your vice grips and peel that sheet metal off. Once I get that done, then I can start working on the actual filler piece that'll go in here. This is kind of a little bit of work, but it should end up with less of a rust-like water trap back there, and it'll make that filler piece a little bit easier to make and look pretty cool when it's all done. Check it out. I am almost all the way done with that. It turns out on this section through here, I was able just to go onto that with the vice grips and wiggle it back and forth and bust those spot welds off pretty easily. So I gotta get these last couple done, get this thing out of here, and then we will start making our filler panel for the back and make sure the bed is still square. We'll cross measure it and make sure it's still pretty good. It should be fine. This thing still has the stock front and rear cross members in it, and all my measurements were looking good so far. Sweet! We're gonna go over here to the old metal pile and see what we got. I think this is gonna be our jam because it's the only thing that I have that's like long enough. So I need 56 by 6 basically, and that's all I got. All this other stuff over here is like 48-inch wide, so that is gonna be good. This is like an 18 gauge or a 16 gauge electro galv, so it's a really light galvanizing on it. It welds good, but it doesn't rust out super quick. So I'm gonna pull this out of here and start chopping it up. Come on over there. It's kind of sketchy how I have it all laid out. Gotta put the camera down. Oh gosh. Alright, I got this piece of metal sort of fit in there. I'm gonna do a little bit of trimming in these little corners here so that I can tighten up this gap. And then I'm gonna take my Sharpie and mark this whole back edge so that I know where to cut it with the plasma cutter. This is all just like, it was basically scrap steel. I go to the recycle yard and metal yard on my lunch break at work a lot of times, and I picked up a whole bunch of this like electro light galvanized sheet metal for like 50 cents a pound. So I've got a whole mountain of it over there. It's going to end up being floor pans and drive shaft tunnel and stuff in that car, and parts on this thing. And I think even when I did my old Mercury Comet, I used this for inner fender tubs as well. So pretty rad. I got the rough shape. Now we can get the slag off, and then I can tack this thing in, and then I'll go back with the sander and fine tune all that after the fact. Alright. That side looks good. Push that out just a little bit. The better I get this to fit right now, the easier it'll be to weld. This is going to be good. Go right to the center. I think if I don't rush this, this will be one of my cleaner bed body drops, which is good. I think the last time I did one of these was like 10 years ago. Love it. I'm getting after it now. You can kind of see here how it looks. I'm going through and I'm just sanding like small sections of it so that I don't end up warping this panel and having it look all funky. So I'll kind of go through, I'll sand a section like a high and a low, and then I'll go and weld the high. And then I'll go over here and I'll sand a high and a low, and I'll go weld the high. And kind of work my way along. That way I don't end up like warping this back panel really bad. So it's coming together. Sides are kind of burned in. This is looking good. It's really cool. Like, I'm stoked on how this thing's coming together. I'm gonna keep working this. I've got the welder set over here on like 18 gauge, and it's working really well. I had it set on 16 gauge and I was burning holes in some of this stuff. You gotta remember, these beds are pretty thin. They don't have a whole lot of strength to them until you start welding them back together. And you don't really need to weld them too hot, because then you're just burning holes. Alright, enough talk, more work. I'm trying to focus the heat on the vertical piece of metal because it's not going to burn away as fast, and then I'm drawing it over to the bed floor. Look at that! Oh, it's cool. So cool. If I keep up this pace, I'll be mini trucking in no time. Woo! This is kind of a cool shot. I don't know if you can see it very well, but that sheet metal is pretty loose right there. But if I reach up underneath and push from the back side, I can hold it in place with one hand and tack it with the other. And that one didn't stick. Oh man, that didn't work at all. Hang on. Get my mistake fixer out. Alright, there we go. Ha! All better. Sweet. So that is in place. Now I'm going to come down here and I'm going to tack this in a few spots. You really want to make sure that you don't I don't want to weld all of this right now because it's possible that it would just warp this piece of metal and then this would have like a bow in it or something. So I want to go through and tack things in a few different spots. That way when I go back to weld it, it doesn't oil can on me too bad. Cool. Alright, burn that in. I'm up here messing with the front of the bed now. You can kind of see how this sheet metal is welded right to that cross member. I'm going to try a cool little trick here and see if I can give it sort of a more finished look on the inside. Let's see if it works. So the idea here is to try and sort of recreate the rolled edge on these body lines here. Basically, it's not super important, but it'll make the bed look a little bit more finished. So I'm gonna take my die grinder and I'm gonna cut about an inch up. Cut it pretty square. And then I'll take a hammer. I'm going to use the butt of the hammer and then basically hammer that in and then tack it. And then I'll take this corners in, and then I'll tack those. And then that sort of duplicates this, which looks a little more finished on the inside here. And when it's all said and done, I believe I'm going to do like a textured raptor liner in here. So all these little details will just make it look more like a factory finished bed. So I'm going to keep chopping along there and see how it turns out. Last little one of these guys. There we go. Sweet. Alright, all of those are welded up and looking good. Check it out. Kind of cool. That's all welded up solid, and then from in here, after I clean all the smoke and get a little rotary file in there, this stuff will clean up and look just like stock. So getting there. I guess it's time to figure out these corners. These ones are kind of ugly, so they're gonna require a little bit of work. I should be able to get underneath and like pry them tight, kind of like they did on the other one, and at least get that to be like a decent weld. This side over here has got a gap. I might have to put a little filler in there. I'm back in the shop. It's Saturday morning. It was really cold last night. It's still cold in here, but I'm going to try and work without the heater on because that thing's just super loud. Sorry, heater, you're out for the day. But the real goal at hand is to get this bed on this truck by the end of the day and see how it fits. I'm gonna basically button up a few little things on the inside of the bed here, and I gotta make braces for the bed sides. If you don't support the bed sides, you end up with like those things flopping around going down the road. So I gotta make some braces front and rear. Grab the tape measure here, and we're gonna do a quick little check and see if we're in the ballpark or not. Trying to worry about all that noise. Oh, come on, tape measure, get over there. Alright, we are looking at 63. If this is less than 63 wheel mount to wheel mount, sorry, if this is less than 63 wheel face to wheel face, I should be pretty good. So I just determined inside a wheel well to inside a wheel well, safe zone is 63 inches. We're going to measure this. That other wheel over there is 9 to the outside. I'm looking at 55 plus 9, and that's 64 inches wide. That might be a problem. Shoot. What am I gonna do? What am I gonna do? I am, yeah, every bit of 64 inches right there. And I'll put this over here, see if I can kind of see what's going on. Alright, that was every bit of 64. If I don't roll these fender lips at all, I can't, that's not even an option. Crap. 60. Alright, we got problems. Darn it. Alright, I'm not going to sweat the axle problem yet. I'm going to keep body dropping this bed and get it done. Going to bust out some little sheet metal work right here. Get these two done. That'll get this section sturdied up, and then it's time to like figure out a bed brace that's kind of back in there a little farther to stop that from happening. Yeah, gonna get this bed all buttoned up today. That's goal number 1. Finish the bed body drop video, Dave. Don't get sidetracked. You got this. Alright, I'm gonna go cut this out of steel. Cardboard, transfer it onto steel. This is a Chinese knockoff of a real Beverly shear. These are one of the coolest tools out there. Someday I would like to have a real Beverly shear, but for now I've got this, and it has been one of the greatest little sheet metal working tools I've ever had. Such a cool little tool. These things have been around since the dawn of time. They make quick work of especially outside corners. They're not super great at cutting inside corners, but outside corners like that, these things can't be beat. I got that piece cut. I left this edge a little long because I wanted to try to hammer a little lip over on it to give it some strength. Sweet, look at that. That thing's super sturdy now, and it kind of has a similar body line that the factory one had. Sweet. I'm gonna finish weld that stuff and then work on the brace under here. And then we're almost done with this thing. We're getting close. We're getting close. Next up are bed braces. Gonna recreate sort of what it had stock. Basically a brace that goes from up here at this cross member down here to the bottom edge of the bed. And I'm just using 1 inch angle iron. So this is just some angle iron that I'm down, and I'm gonna cut some chunks of that, and then I'm gonna connect the dots with this I think 3/8 round bar. So let me cut some pieces, we'll go fit them up and see how we can make some scrap metal turn into something pretty cool to support those bedsides. Alright, I'm back. I had to go to the tractor store and get some more 3/8 solid bar so I could finish up these braces. And I also grabbed some carriage bolts so that I can run them upside down and mount them from here up. That way they've got like a smooth surface so that I'm not dragging like the head of bolts and nuts and stuff on the ground there. And it turns out I was really hungry and I was like grumpy because I hadn't eaten yet. So I made myself a breakfast burrito even though it's like 4 in the afternoon. So I'm gonna bust out some quick more braces. This is where I left off. I got this side with one of the braces in. I gotta add the other one in and then move back to this spot, make a bracket that bolts in there and then comes down to that, and we'll see where it looks at that point. Alright, I think I'm about done with this body drop for today. So this is a pretty good stopping point on it. We've got the front all welded up. We've got our sheet metal panels in here welded. The back of this thing looks amazing with the sheet metal running all the way across. It's all pretty sturdy. We got bed braces going on here and bed braces there. Where's it at? Anyways, it's looking good. I feel like that's a pretty good stopping point. The next time you see this bed, it will be getting fitted onto that truck right there. And I got some tricks up my sleeve in order to make that happen. So keep following along. Thanks for watching this Dirt Head Shed. I gotta weld up one more little bracket and then I'm out of here for the night.